What if I told you that the only prison you've ever been in was built by your own mind, and that you've been holding the key all along? I want to talk with you today about something that will change your life. Not tomorrow, not next week, but the moment you truly understand it. It's a principle as old as humanity itself, yet most people will go their entire lives without ever grasping its power. Here it is. The world does not respond to what you wish for. It responds to what you expect. Let me say that again, because it's important. The world doesn't care about your hopes or your fears. It watches how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself, and it mirrors that back to you with remarkable precision. Now, I'm not talking about magic or make-believe. I'm talking about a law as dependable as gravity. When you act as if something is impossible, you begin to gather evidence that supports that belief. You notice every closed door, every rejection, every limitation. Your mind, magnificent machine that it is, goes to work proving you right. But here's where it gets interesting. The same process works in reverse. When you act as if nothing is impossible, when you move through the world with the quiet certainty that obstacles are temporary and solutions are inevitable, your mind begins to work on your behalf. It notices opportunities where others see dead ends. It makes connections that were invisible before. It finds paths that didn't seem to exist. This is not optimism. This is not positive thinking. This is something far more powerful. It is the disciplined direction of your mental energy toward a specific outcome, regardless of present circumstances. Let me tell you what I mean. There was a time when people believed that running a mile in under 4 minutes was physically impossible. Doctors said the human heart would explode. Experts agreed it couldn't be done. And for years they were right because everyone who tried believed them. Then in 1954, a medical student named Roger Bannister decided to stop accepting that limitation. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for proof. He simply trained as if the barrier didn't exist. And on a cold, wet day in Oxford, England, he ran a mile in 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Now here's the remarkable part. Within 1 year, 37 other runners also broke the 4-minute mile. Within 2 years, over 300 had done it. The only thing that changed was belief. The human body didn't evolve in 12 months. The track didn't get shorter. The barrier was never physical, it was mental. And the moment one man refused to accept it, it collapsed for everyone. You become what you think about most of the time. That's the central truth. And if you think about limitations, you will become limited. If you think about reasons why something can't be done, you will find them endlessly, convincingly. But if you discipline your mind to think about possibilities, solutions, and progress, you will begin to move in that direction as surely as a plant grows toward sunlight. Have you ever noticed that the things you worry about most seem to find you? That the outcomes you dread have a strange way of showing up, almost as if they were waiting for you all along? A man wakes up and thinks, "This is going to be a terrible day." And sure enough, by noon, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. He spills his coffee. He hits every red light. His meeting falls apart. And that night, he tells his wife, "See, I knew it. I knew this would happen." And he's right. He did know. But here's what he doesn't understand. He didn't predict the future. He created it. Now, before you dismiss that as nonsense, stay with me for just a moment. Because what I'm about to tell you has been proven over and over again in laboratories and boardrooms and in the quiet lives of millions of people who've discovered this principle and used it to transform everything. Your mind is not a passive observer of reality. It's an active participant. When you assume something will happen, when you truly expect it, not with hope but with certainty, your brain immediately goes to work making it so. Not through magic, through a very specific, very measurable process. Here's how it works. Your brain receives millions of pieces of information every single second. Right now, as you're reading this, you're surrounded by sounds, sensations, sights, far more than you could possibly process consciously. So your brain filters. It decides what's important and what isn't based on one simple question: what does this person expect to see? When you assume failure, your brain filters for evidence of failure. It notices the rejection emails. It remembers the past mistakes. It spots every obstacle and magnifies it. Not because the world is against you, but because you've told your brain. This is what we're looking for. But here's the remarkable part: when you assume success, when you act as if the outcome you want is not just possible but inevitable, your brain flips the filter. Suddenly, You begin to notice opportunities you walked past 100 times before. You remember the one person who said yes instead of the 10 who said no. You see the opening where yesterday you saw a wall. Same world, same circumstances, different assumption, different result. Thomas Troward, the great mental scientist, once said that the whole process of mental adjustment is one of changed assumptions. Not changed circumstances, changed assumptions. Because the circumstances will change themselves once the assumption changes. Think about it this way. When a pilot flies at night through thick clouds, he can't see anything. No stars, no ground, no horizon. If he trusted his feelings, he'd crash within minutes because his senses would lie to him. So what does he do? He trusts his instruments. He acts as if the instruments are telling him the truth, even when everything inside him screams otherwise. And by acting on that assumption, by flying as if the instruments are correct, he arrives safely. You have instruments too. Not physical ones, but mental ones. They're called assumptions. And the question is not whether you'll use them. You're using them right now, whether you realize it or not. The question is, what are they set to? Are they set to, this won't work, or this will work? Are they set to, people like me don't succeed at this, or there's no reason I can't do this? Are they set to, I'll try and see what happens, or I'm going to make this happen? Because I promise you this, your results will match your settings with almost mechanical precision. Now you might be thinking, but what if I assume something will work and it doesn't? Won't I just be disappointed? And the answer is perhaps. But here's what I've learned. The person who assumes success and encounters a setback calls it a detour. The person who assumes failure and encounters the same setback calls it proof. Same event, different meaning. And that meaning determines whether they continue or quit. The people who achieve remarkable things aren't lucky. They're not gifted with special circumstances. They simply operate from a different assumption. They assume solutions exist even when they can't see them yet. They assume their efforts will compound into results. They assume that persistence, applied intelligently, will eventually break through any barrier. And because they assume it, they act accordingly. And because they act accordingly, they create the evidence that proves them right. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one thing, just one, that you've been approaching with doubt. Something you want but have been assuming won't work out. And for the next 7 days, act as if success is guaranteed. Not pretend, not hope. Act as if the outcome is already decided in your favor, and all that remains is the process of getting there. Watch what happens. Watch how your behavior changes. Watch what you begin to notice that you were blind to before. Your assumption is not a prediction. It's an instruction manual you're handing to your mind. Make sure it's the right one. Now, let me be clear. I'm not suggesting you ignore reality. I'm suggesting you stop mistaking current reality for permanent reality. The person who acts as if nothing is impossible doesn't deny obstacles. They simply refuse to accept them as the final word. When Thomas Edison was working on the electric light, he failed over 1,000 times. A reporter once asked him, "How did it feel to fail so many times?" Edison looked at him and said, "I didn't fail. I just found 1,000 ways that didn't work." That is the mindset of someone who refuses to accept impossibility. Here's what this means for you today, right now. You have a goal, something you want to achieve, someone you want to become, something you want to create. And I would wager that somewhere in your mind, there's a voice telling you why it can't happen. Maybe it's too late. Maybe you don't have the credentials. Maybe you've tried before and failed. Maybe people like you don't do things like that. That voice is not wisdom. That voice is fear dressed up as reason. And here's the truth. The moment you stop listening to it and start acting as if your goal is not only possible but inevitable, everything begins to shift. What does that look like in practice? It means you stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. You start today with what you have, where you are. It means you stop asking if you can do something and start asking how. It means when someone tells you it's impossible, you smile politely and get back to work. It means you guard your mind the way a gardener guards their soil, because what you plant there will grow. If you plant doubt, you'll harvest failure. If you plant certainty, you'll harvest progress. And understand this, acting as if nothing is impossible doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means you will face the difficulties with a mind that refuses to quit. A mind that treats problems as puzzles, not prison sentences. A mind that expects solutions and therefore finds them. You see, Most people are stopped not by the difficulty of the journey, but by their belief about the difficulty. They see a mountain and decide it's too high before they've taken the first step. But the person who acts as if nothing is impossible takes that first step, and then the next, and one day turns around to find the mountain behind them. The world doesn't bend for the fearless. It bends for the committed, for those who make a decision and then honor that decision with their daily actions. For those who know, deep in their bones, that persistence and belief are more powerful than any temporary setback. So here's my question for you. What would you do today if you knew, not hoped, not wished, but knew, that success was inevitable? Would you make that phone call? Would you start that project? Would you have that difficult conversation? Would you take that first small step that you've been putting off? Whatever it is, do it today. Not when you feel ready, not when conditions are perfect, not when you have more proof that it will work. Today. Because here's what I've learned in all my years of studying success and human achievement. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not extraordinary people. They are ordinary people who made an extraordinary decision to act as if nothing was impossible, and then to honor that decision with their behavior. The world is waiting for you. Not the perfect version of you, not the fearless version. The committed version. The version that shows up day after day, regardless of mood or circumstance, and does the work. And when you do this, when you truly commit to acting as if your goals are not just possible but inevitable, you will discover something remarkable. The world begins to conspire in your favor. Opportunities appear. The right people show up. Doors open, not because of magic, but because you've trained your mind to see them. Your life, right now, is the sum total of your expectations up to this point. If you want a different life, expect different things. Act as if the life you want is not a dream, but a destination you're traveling toward, and then make the journey one deliberate step at a time. The only question that matters is this: will you? Will you decide today that your limitations are negotiable, that your past does not dictate your future, that the opinions of others, no matter how well-intentioned, are not the final authority on what you can achieve? If you will, then everything changes. Not all at once, but surely, steadily, inevitably. Act as if nothing is impossible, not because everything is easy, but because you refuse to accept defeat as the final word. Do this, and the world will bend. Not to your wishes, to your expectations, to your consistent, disciplined belief. Now go. Take one step today toward that goal you've been putting off. Not tomorrow, today. And when you've taken that step, take another, and another. The world is waiting to see what you'll do when you finally stop accepting limits. This is Earl Nightingale, reminding you that you become what you think about. Good luck, and I'll talk to you again soon. Here's something most people never figure out. They spend their entire lives blaming their circumstances. The economy, their upbringing, their education, their age, the town they live in, the opportunities they didn't get. And they wait, sometimes for years, sometimes forever, for those circumstances to change before they'll make their move. But circumstances don't change first. They never have. They never will. You look around and you see it everywhere. People sitting on the sidelines of their own lives, convinced that success belongs to those who were dealt better cards, the ones with connections, the ones with money, the ones who got lucky breaks. And so they wait. They wait for permission. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for circumstances to line up just right. And while they're waiting, life passes them by, and they never discover the one truth that would have set them free. Now, let me tell you what that truth is. The world doesn't bend for circumstances. It bends for discipline. Specifically, mental discipline, the ability to direct your thoughts, control your focus, and take action regardless of what's happening around you. You see, circumstances are nothing more than the raw material of your life. They're neutral. Two people can face identical circumstances and produce completely opposite results. One builds an empire, the other builds an excuse. The difference isn't in what happened to them. It's in what happened inside them. Let me give you an example. In 1914, Thomas Edison's laboratory burned to the ground. Years of research, prototypes, experiments, all of it gone in one night. He was 67 years old. He had every reason to quit, to blame his circumstances, to say it was too late to start over. Instead, the next morning, he stood in the ashes and said, "There's great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." 3 weeks later, he had a plan. Within months, he was back to work. That's not positive thinking. That's mental discipline. That's refusing to let circumstances dictate response. Here's what I've learned after studying thousands of successful people. They all have circumstances. Bad ones often. Obstacles that would stop most people cold. But they have something else too, a trained mind that refuses to accept circumstances as final. They understand something crucial. Circumstances are temporary, but character is permanent. And character is built through mental discipline, through the daily practice of directing your thoughts away from what you can't control and toward what you can. Most people do the opposite. They focus all their energy on circumstances, the things they can't change, and wonder why nothing improves. It's like standing in the rain, complaining about the weather instead of building shelter. Mental discipline means you wake up and, before you check your phone, before you see what new crisis the world has delivered, you decide how you're going to think today. You decide what you'll focus on. You decide what meaning you'll give to the events that unfold. Because here's the truth, you can't always choose your circumstances, but you can always choose your response. And your response, not your circumstances, determines your trajectory. A man loses his job. His circumstance is unemployment. But his response, that's entirely up to him. He can spend his days bitter and defeated, or he can spend them learning new skills, making connections, creating opportunities. Same circumstance, different discipline, different outcome. The marketplace doesn't care about your circumstances. It cares about value. Can you solve problems? Can you serve people? Can you create something worth paying for? If you can, circumstances become irrelevant. If you can't, no circumstance will save you. This is why mental discipline is the ultimate competitive advantage. Because while everyone else is waiting for circumstances to improve, you're improving yourself. While they're hoping for a break, you're breaking through. While they're looking for the lucky few who made it, you're becoming one of them. And here's the beautiful part. The moment you stop waiting for perfect circumstances and start working with what you have, circumstances begin to improve. Not because the world suddenly became fair, but because you became effective. Opportunities appear not when circumstances are ideal, but when preparedness meets persistence. And both of those come from mental discipline, from the decision to master your mind rather than be mastered by your situation. So here's what I want you to understand. Whatever circumstance you're facing right now, financial pressure, limited resources, fierce competition, personal setbacks, it's not the deciding factor in your life. Your mental discipline is. Your ability to focus on solutions rather than problems. Your willingness to act despite uncertainty. Your refusal to let the world outside dictate the world inside. That's what separates those who make it from those who don't. Not luck, not circumstances, discipline. Start there. Master that. And watch how quickly circumstances stop mattering. Every limitation you've accepted in your life, every ceiling you've bumped up against, every goal you've abandoned, every dream you've let go, started as a thought. A quiet thought that said, "This isn't for me," or "I'm not that kind of person," or "People like me don't do things like that." And somewhere along the way, you agreed with that thought. You let it settle in. You built your life around it. And now, years later, you look at where you are and you think it's just the way things turned out. But it wasn't. It was the way you imagined things would turn out. And your imagination won. The uncomfortable truth is this: you are living inside a ceiling you built yourself. And most people never realize it. They think their boundaries are real, physical, unchangeable facts about the world. But they're not. They're beliefs. And beliefs, unlike facts, can be changed the moment you decide to change them. Now let me show you why this matters. Because there's a law at work here, one that's been operating in your life every single day, whether you knew it or not. And once you understand it, everything becomes possible. Here it is. Belief doesn't follow reality. Belief precedes reality. You don't see it, then believe it. You believe it, then see it. This isn't philosophy. This is observable fact. Every single thing that exists in the human world, every building, every business, every invention, every work of art, started as a belief in someone's mind. Not a hope, not a wish. A belief that it could be done, even when there was no evidence yet. The Wright brothers believed humans could fly before they had any proof. Henry Ford believed ordinary people could own cars when everyone said it was impossible. Walt Disney believed in a place where families could experience magic together when bankers laughed him out of their offices. They didn't wait for evidence. They created the evidence by acting on their belief. Here's what happens in most people's lives. They wait for proof before they'll believe something is possible for them. They need to see someone exactly like them succeed first. They need guarantees. They need certainty. And because they need those things, they never start. And because they never start, they never get the proof they were waiting for. It's a perfect trap. And most people live their entire lives inside it. But there's another way. You can decide to believe something before you have evidence. You can build a picture in your mind of who you want to become, what you want to achieve, where you want to go, and you can hold that picture with absolute certainty even while your current circumstances scream the opposite. This is not self-deception. This is self-direction. Your imagination is the workshop where your future is built. Right now, in your mind, you have a picture of yourself. Maybe you see yourself as someone who struggles with money, or someone who's not good with people, or someone who's too old, too young, too something to do what you really want. That picture is your ceiling, and you will never rise above it. Not because you can't, but because your mind won't let you. Your mind's job is to keep your behavior consistent with your self-image. So if you see yourself as a person who fails, your mind will guide you, subtly, automatically, toward failure. Not because it hates you, but because it's trying to prove you right. But change the picture, and everything changes. A salesman who sees himself as a top performer will find ways to close deals that a salesman who sees himself as average would never attempt. Same training, same product, same market, different belief, different result. An entrepreneur who believes her business will succeed will persist through obstacles that would stop someone who believes they're just trying their luck. Same challenges, same resources, different ceiling, different outcome. Your belief about what's possible for you determines what you'll attempt. What you'll attempt determines what you'll learn. What you'll learn determines what you'll achieve. It all starts with belief. So here's the question you need to answer honestly. What do you believe about yourself right now? Because that belief, not your circumstances, not your past, not what anyone else thinks, is the ceiling of your life. And if you want to go higher, you don't need to change the world. You need to change the picture. Start seeing yourself as capable, as resourceful, as someone who solves problems and creates value. See it clearly. See it often. See it until it feels more real than your current limitations. And then watch what happens. Your mind will go to work making that picture real. Not overnight, but steadily, consistently, inevitably. Because belief doesn't follow reality. It creates it. Change the belief. Change the ceiling. Change your life. Let me tell you about the most dangerous habit most people never break. They wait for permission. Not literally. No one's standing there telling them they can't start. But mentally, emotionally, they're waiting for someone or something to give them the green light. A sign from the universe. The perfect moment. Proof that it's the right move. Validation from people who matter. And while they're waiting, years go by. Opportunities close. Ideas go stale. Energy fades. And one day they wake up and realize they spent their whole life in the waiting room and nobody ever called their name. Because here's the truth nobody tells you, the permission you're waiting for doesn't exist. It never did. And the people who succeed aren't the ones who got it. They're the ones who stopped asking for it. Think about that for a moment. Really think about it. Because this is where most people get stuck and they don't even realize it. They're capable. They're smart. They have ideas. But they're paralyzed by this invisible need for approval that keeps them locked in place while life moves forward without them. Now, here's what you need to understand. The world doesn't reward those who wait for certainty. It rewards those who act despite uncertainty. It rewards those who take the first step when they can only see the first step. It rewards those who start before they're ready, learn along the way, and adjust as they go. This is how everything significant gets done. When Ray Kroc was 52 years old, he met the McDonald brothers and saw a small hamburger stand in California. He wasn't a restaurant expert. He had no special training. He wasn't wealthy or well-connected. But he didn't wait for someone to tell him he was qualified. He saw an opportunity, and he took it, without permission, without proof that it would work. And that decision changed not just his life, but an entire industry. Vera Wang didn't become a fashion designer until she was 40. Colonel Sanders didn't start Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was 62. They didn't wait for the world to anoint them as ready. They decided they were ready, and they acted accordingly. Here's the pattern you'll see over and over again if you study successful people. They don't wait for proof that something is possible. They create the proof by doing it. And that's the key insight. Proof doesn't come before action. It comes after. It comes as a result of action. But most people have it backwards. They think they need proof first. Proof that they can do it. Proof that it will work. Proof that they won't look foolish if they try. So they study. They prepare. They plan. They wait. And none of those things are bad until they become substitutes for action. Until they become excuses disguised as wisdom. The truth is, you'll never feel completely ready. You'll never have all the information you want. You'll never eliminate all the risk. And if you wait until you do, you'll wait forever. The person who starts a business without knowing everything about business will learn more in 6 months than the person who spent 6 years preparing. The person who asks for the sale will make more money than the person who's perfecting their pitch. The person who writes the imperfect book will impact more lives than the person waiting to write the perfect one. Action is the teacher. Experience is the classroom, and the tuition is paid in courage, the courage to move forward without guarantees. Now, does this mean you act recklessly? No. It means you act intelligently without waiting for permission from circumstances, from people, or from some feeling of absolute certainty that never comes. It means you do your homework, then you make your move. You learn enough to start, then you learn the rest by doing. You take the first step, then the next step reveals itself. Here's what I want you to grasp every single day you wait for permission. Someone else is taking action. They're not smarter than you. They're not more qualified. They're just more willing to start before they feel ready. And 6 months from now, a year from now, they'll be miles ahead. Not because they had some special advantage, but because they understood something you're learning right now. Nobody is coming to give you permission. Nobody is coming to tell you you're ready. Nobody is coming to guarantee your success. You are the permission. You are the green light. You are the starting gun. So here's my challenge to you. What's one thing you've been putting off because you're waiting for the right time, the right credentials, the right validation? Take the first step today. Not a perfect step, just a step. Make the call. Send the email. Start the project. Claim what's yours. Stop waiting for permission you don't need. Start before you're ready. That's how everything worth doing gets done. Here's what stops most people from ever achieving anything significant. They start something with enthusiasm. They work at it for a week, maybe a month, maybe even longer. And then, because they don't see dramatic results right away, they quit. They tell themselves it wasn't meant to be, that it doesn't work, that they chose the wrong path. And they move on to the next thing, and the next, and the next, always starting, never finishing, always planting seeds, never staying around long enough to harvest. And the tragedy is this: they were probably closer to breakthrough than they realized. They just didn't understand how success actually works. Because success doesn't come from giant leaps. It comes from small steps, repeated consistently, over time, with absolute conviction that they're leading somewhere. Let me show you what I mean. There's a principle in nature, one that most people ignore, but that governs nearly everything of value in this world. It's called the compound effect. And it works like this: small actions compounded over time produce extraordinary results, not linear results, not proportional results, exponential results. If you save $1 today, you have $1. If you save $1 every day for a year, you have 365. That's linear growth, predictable, modest, nothing remarkable. But if you invest that $1 and it grows at 10% annually and you keep adding to it consistently, after 10 years you don't have 3,650. You have over 6,000. After 20 years, you have over 20,000. After 30 years, you have nearly 60,000, same daily action, wildly different result. That's compound growth. And here's what you need to understand: this principle doesn't just apply to money. It applies to everything. Every skill you develop, every relationship you nurture, every habit you build, every piece of knowledge you acquire, they all compound. The person who reads 10 pages a day doesn't just know 3, 6, and 50 pages worth of information at the end of the year. They know how to think differently. They see connections others miss. They make better decisions. The reading compounds into wisdom. The person who exercises for 20 minutes a day doesn't just get slightly more fit. They build discipline. They increase energy. They gain confidence. They inspire others. The exercise compounds into transformation. But here's the catch, and this is where most people fail. Compound growth is invisible at first. For days, weeks, even months, it looks like nothing is happening. The results are so small they're barely measurable, and that's when people quit. They plant a bamboo seed and water it every day, and for 5 years, 5 entire years, nothing happens. No growth above ground, no visible progress. Just the same daily action with no apparent reward. Most people would give up after a month, maybe 3. They'd say the seed was bad, the soil was wrong, the system doesn't work. But the person with conviction keeps watering, and in the 5th year, that bamboo shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. Not because of what happened in week 6, because of what happened every single day for 5 years when nothing seemed to be happening. The roots were growing, the foundation was being built. The compound effect was working invisibly, silently, powerfully. This is what separates those who achieve extraordinary things from those who give up early. Not talent, not luck. Conviction, the unshakable belief that consistent action, even when results aren't visible, is leading somewhere. Thomas Edison tested thousands of materials before he found the right filament for the light bulb. Most people would have quit after 10 tries, maybe 100. But Edison had conviction. He knew that each failed attempt wasn't wasted effort, it was compound learning. Each test eliminated one wrong answer and brought him closer to the right one. Here's what you need to know. The person who acts with conviction doesn't need to see results every day. They trust the process. They trust that small, consistent actions, done with belief, done with excellence, done without quitting, will eventually reach a tipping point where the results become undeniable. And they always do. Always. The only question is whether you'll still be there when they arrive. So here's what I want you to do. Pick one thing. Just one. Something that matters to you. Something that would genuinely improve your life if you did it consistently. And commit to doing it every single day for the next 90 days. Not when you feel like it. Not when it's convenient. Every day, with conviction. Don't judge the results after a week. Don't get discouraged after a month. Just trust the compound effect. Trust that small actions, repeated with belief, are building something beneath the surface that you can't see yet. Because they are. They always are. That's how ordinary people create extraordinary lives. Not through dramatic gestures, but through small daily disciplines performed with unwavering conviction. Start today. Stay consistent. Trust the process. The compound effect never fails. It only waits for those who believe in it long enough to see it work.